Join me today as we take a look at 5 pretty common blues licks, and instead of just learning them and playing them, we're going to figure out why they work so you can take those ideas and use them in other solos as well. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing great. Thanks for spending some time with me today, wherever in the world you happen to be. We're having a lot of fun today. We haven't done a lick episode in a while. I kind of shy away from the licks because some people base all of their playing on learning new licks and not learning why they work. You could learn 1, 2, 3 licks, and if you understood how they work, you could make hundreds of licks from those. So today I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I always tell you, ask why. Why do these things work? If you understand how they work, then you can own them and you can use them other places. So today we are going to be doing some really cool stuff. I have made 5 licks for you. Here they are. And the first one is a minor pentatonic bending type lick. These are all in the key of A, and they're all, in pretty easy patterns here. They're not all in the same pattern, but these are very easy. So minor pentatonic bend lick is number 1. We're doing a BB King box lick for number 2. Number 3 is the back side of pattern 1. So we're going to make use of everything that your first finger, all those notes that are in a row there. And then we have a turnaround, using a 9th chord in a turnaround. And then the last one is a Dorian type sound, a sharp 6 type sound, in with a minor pentatonic. So every single one of these we've talked about before, but today we're going to put them into the licks and we're going to take a look at them. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1 here. So here we go. Again. Okay, pretty common. This first part here, we're on the G string, and with the 3rd finger, we're bending up. This is pattern 1, the 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4 pattern we've always used, right? And we're going to have 7th fret here, with the 3rd finger bending on the 7th fret of the G string, up to the 5th fret of the B string, and then the 5th fret of the high E string. So right there, we have a D note that's bending up to an E. So we start with a tense note and go up to an E, which is the 5th of an A chord, or an A7 chord, dominant chord. We'll be playing over dominant chords today, right? So we're bending up to a strong note. So tension to strong, and then we have the high string, 5th fret. That's another strong, that's our root note. That's an A. So weak, strong, strong. Now we're going to the highest note in our pattern here. This is the 8th fret here. It's the C. And you would think, oh, well, if you're going to do a double stop here, you do 8 straight across. That's not what we're doing here. We have the 7th fret on the B string. So 8th fret on the high E and the 7th fret on the B string. Very odd sound, right? With a little bend to it there. Not even a quarter step bend, but just a little bit, just taking it out, raising it up a little bit there. This note here, this is an F sharp. And in the key of A, F sharp is the major 6th. It's not the minor note, which would be F. It's the major 6th, which is an F sharp. Okay, so not in the minor pentatonic, not even in the natural minor scale. This is something we're kind of borrowing from the major for this note. Now the 6th, we always talk about the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, and then the 7th. So this is not one of our strong notes. This is a weaker note. So we can play with it a little bit. It's not going to affect how the chords work. If we played this, gets kind of a minor sound. This is the F. Now I'm going to change it to F sharp, which is what we're using in this instance. There's a mode that's called Dorian, and the Dorian mode is just a minor type scale, but with this note in it, the raised 6. So we're kind of getting a little of this mixing of major and minor in different ways here, and we're doing it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the 5. So we have some weaker notes, except for the high note is a minor third. So with that 7th, that's a weaker note. It adds a little rub to it, a little tension. Back to our 5th and our root. Those are the 2 5s. That's our E and our A, our chord notes there. Now, in the last beat of measure 4, we have a triplet. Take the 7th fret on the B string and the G string. That's a D note, and then that F sharp that we were talking about before. And when we bend those up a half step, the D goes to E flat and the F sharp goes to G. So E flat in the key of A, that's the blue note. The flat 5 or the sharp 4. And then the G on the high string, on the B string that it goes up to, that is a flat 7th. So we're bending up into some bluesy kind of notes here, right? So far we have weak, strong, strong, weak, 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 strong, triplet, 7 bend, 7 released, and then 5. So when we have 2 5s on the G and the B string, that's our minor third and our 5th. So that's strong. End on a strong, and then the root note, and just back and forth from it. That's part of an arpeggio, root to third to root. So an easy lick, something you hear that all the time in blues type stuff. The reason it works, we're taking a note that's not a chord tone and bending it up to be a chord tone, and then playing 2 more. Then we have this little note that we've borrowed from the Dorian mode here, a major type 6. That adds some tension in there for these top notes. You've heard this, Stevie Ray Vaughan play this all the time. And then we have a bending up to kind of blues scale sound with the 7 and 7 to a 5 and 5 on the G string. That's the C and the E. Those are chord tones, root, and following off with root tones. So very simple common lick and something that you can wrap your head around. Not too tough. Let's move on to the next one. Our next one, we're in A, but this time up at the 10th fret, we're going to put our first finger. This is the B.B. King box here. So it's around pattern 2. It's pattern 2. We're going to add some of the major scale in here as well. So our first finger's on the root. If you ever want to play the B.B. King box, when you get home, when you've got your guitar, or if you're sitting there with your guitar now, figure out what the chord is that you're playing, what the key of the song is. This is A. On the B string, find that note. So I need an A on the B string. I'm going up to the 10th fret here. So if I put my first finger there, I'm in perfect position to play the B.B. King box. 1, 3, 1, 3, B string and high E string. And then you can do the second finger on the G string. These notes right here are the basics of the B.B. King box. We can do a lot of stuff with it though here, but here we're just using it pretty simply. So we start off with the 10, then an A note. We're going to bend the 12. That's the B note. That's the second degree of the scale. We're going to bend that up a full, up to this note here. That's the third of the scale. So we're going strong, weak to bend up to strong. Now next is the 10th fret on the high E string. That is a D. That's the 4th. And it goes up to the 12th fret, which is an E. Now when we come back, we're going to hit that bending 12 again on the B string, bending that B up to a C sharp, to the third, and then back to the root. So we're starting root, bend up to the third, fourth, fifth, third, root. You can think of it as major scale, missing a few notes. You can think of it as major pentatonic scale, missing, not going through all the notes there. But that bending the second, which is the B in this case, up to the third, that's the good stuff right there. That's the sweet sound, sweet blues. Now, if we look at the next measure here, we're going to take the fifth and bend it up to that F sharp, that major six that we were using in the last lick. And come back down, so it's 5, going up to the major 6, back to 5, 4. And now we're going to slide into 11 here. That is the F sharp going into the 6th. And sliding into that 6th, coming into the A again. It's a very cool sound, very hip sound. It's not minor, it's very major here. So why can we do this? Here's another why you should ask yourself. Why can we, in the first one, do this minor pentatonic bending lick, and in this one do a major sounding lick over the same chords, which is A major, which is an A dominant, 7th chord. Well, dominant 7th chords, that's the reason. A dominant 7th has a root, a third, a fifth, and a flat 7. That note right there makes this a very tense chord. And because it's a tense chord, we can do a lot of different things to it and it will accept it. It's not straight major and it's not straight minor. It's dominant. We got a little something going on in there that allows us to play around. We can play a little minor pentatonic. We can play a little major pentatonic. We do a little B.B. King box there. Okay, so we're basically doing some major stuff over top of there. Let's take a look at number 3. Played this a million times in different variations in a lot of songs. So we have, this is all of our 5s. In pattern 1. So go ahead and play, if you have your guitar with you, our box 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4 in the key of A at the 5th fret. Now, if we take a look on the D string, on the G string, and on the B string, they're all at the 5th fret right there. So I can take my first finger and bar those 3 notes. Those are really the 3 notes of a C chord right there. But we're using these as kind of a way to set up our root note, right? So we're going to do a little quarter step bend with those 3 notes. So we're going to bar those 3 and kind of pull them down to the floor a quarter step. Here, going out of tune a little bit there. And then those notes, that's our flat 7th, our 3rd, and our 5th. So these are strong notes, but just without the root. And bending them out of tune a little bit gives them, instead of it's just, so if we played them just straight, it would sound kind of like an A minor chord, but we're bending them a quarter step to add a little tension there. Root, flat 7th, root. Now the next one, we just take the 5th fret of the G string, that's a C note. It's our minor 3rd. We bend it a quarter step. It's heading towards the major. It's almost like we're kind of heading in the direction of the major 3rd. That's a very, very blues thing to do. You have your minor 3rd, you have your major 3rd, and then we have kind of a note that's in between them in blues. It's the minor 3rd bent up maybe halfway towards that major 3rd. There it goes. It's like we're adding a note in there that isn't there on the guitar. We're bend. It's a really neat thing to do to add a little bit of complexity to your solos. Everybody does it. I think Warren Haynes uses that note the best. The note that's in between the minor third and the major. The first one is, then we have just the minor third, then back to the all fives. Now we're doing a sliding double stop. So we're going to take our third finger on the 7th fret, and on the G string, that's a D note. We're going to slide up to the E note. So we're sliding up to a strong note. And then once we hit the E note at the 9th fret, we're going to use our second finger to go to the B string and pluck. I'm using a hybrid picking technique. So I'm picking the string that's sliding and I'm plucking the note on the B string. And this is a G note. That's our flat 7th. So we've got 5th and flat 7th. Those are chord tones. And then we're coming back to a D and the C, which are minor pentatonic notes, and then we're playing all 7s on the D, G, and B string, all 5s on that same string. So it's kind of like we're playing a D chord, a C chord, and then back to the 1. Okay, so we have. Now, knowing what we do know with these three, I can take that. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that at the end. Take these ideas and make some new things out of them. Show you what I mean by that. Okay, let's go over to number 4 here. So number 4 is where we're going to do our turnaround. What's the turnaround? Well, you might hear something like this. It's that little part at the end of a 12-bar blues that tells you that it's over and we're about to start again. It's the last measure, about a measure and a half to 2 measures. Boom, 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 boom. And we usually end up on some sort of a 5 chord. Traditional 12-bar blues just had the 1 chord on that last measure there. It's very difficult to hear when it starts and when the thing begins again. So we put in a 5 chord to tell us, hey, it's time to go back and start the 12-bar blues again. We're starting at what we had earlier, the 2 5s. That's our A and E on the high E and the B string. I'm sliding into them, barring them with my first finger. All right, and now we're going to go to our next double stop, which is the 8th fret on the first finger on the B and 9th fret on the G. What that does is that puts us at our dominant 7th and then our 5th. So far, strong notes. Now we're going to slide that down 1 fret. That's our, now this is our tension. So we just take the, that's our 7 and 8 there. That's our F sharp, so the Dorian note, kind of a major note, and then our blues scale note, the sharp 4 flat 5. Now we're going to go another half step down. Now we're at the 6th fret and the 7th fret on the B and G string. So we got kind of a minor note, and then our D from all of the minor scales, right? Our 4th. So we have end up on the 5th fret. Now you'd think it would go straight back since we're going half steps down. Half step, half step. You'd think it would end right here, but it doesn't. We're going to come to another type of double stop. So we're going to go up to the 6th fret, which is a C sharp. That's the 3rd of A, a major 3rd. And then we're going to play on the high E string, our root note. And I'm going to hybrid pick that as well. So we get that kind of boom, 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 turnaround that we've heard in the bass for so long, we're reflecting that in our double stops. And then as we look here, we're ending this with a 5 chord that's a dominant 9 chord, an E9. So we set it up with a half step above F9 to E9. It's a very common thing to do. F9 shouldn't be there, it shouldn't work, but it sounds great. It's a half step away from where we're going to. It adds instant tension. Right? So we have... And you know, when you hear that 5 chord right there, it needs to go back to the 1, right? We're starting over again. We have one more lick that we're going to take a look at here. And this is, we're featuring that raised 6, that Dorian sound with our minor pentatonic. We're going to start on the 7th fret of the B string. And we're going to bend up a half step. And then release. So we have a half step. That's going up to the flat 7th of an A. Then back to this major 6th. That'd be the F sharp. So we're going to bend up to G, F sharp, E, which is the 5th of the chord, 7, which is the 4th of the chord. That's a weak note. So we have bending the F sharp up to a G. That's the dominant, the flat 7th. Then we have the major 6th, the 5th, which is the 5th fret of the B string. That's an E note. Our D note, it's our 4th. Now we have the 5th fret of the G string. That's a C. That's a minor 3rd up to a root. That's a Dorian sound because of that minor 3rd there, right? So we're taking a minor scale and we're throwing in this F sharp, this raised 6. It's a very cool sound. And then now we're going to do the same thing, but on a lower octave. We're going to take, let's use our first finger for this. So we'll do a little bending with the first finger. 4th fret, F sharp on the D string. We're going to bend it a half step, release it, go back to the 5 of the chord, which is an E, which I'm playing on the 7th fret of the A string. Grabbing that little backside of the pattern 1, those 3 5th frets in a row, the D string, G string, and B string. It's a C chord, really. And actually A minor too. And then go A minor 7, you can think of it that way too, and go into the root note. So the whole thing, this is one of the licks I play all the time too. So very easy blues lick. We're using the minor pentatonic scale and we're taking that F sharp and adding it to it to give it a Dorian sound. It adds a little tension in there, but a little sweetness too, because it's a note from the major as well too. So how would I take all of these and make something out of it? Each time we went through each one of these licks, I showed something different. What's different here? This note here. That's from the first one. That's where we use the minor 3rd, and then the raised 6th, the Dorian sound. Just with that, you can use that in a million different solos. And the one I wrote for you, I bent it a little bit and played it over and over and over again. And you can do that too in a bunch of different places. Let's see here on the B.B. King box, bending the 2nd degree of the scale. Now I did it in the B.B. King box area. That's bending a B and going back to A. But I could do it anywhere. It's going to give you a sweeter sound than playing minor pentatonic, and you can throw that in anywhere you want. The 2nd degree of the scale, bending up to the 3rd, will work great. The back side of pattern 1, you can have fun with that all day long. throwing that in anywhere with any kind of minor pentatonic lick. That's the G, the C, and the E notes, and bending them a little bit to get something out. Turn around with ninth chords. After any song, if you're in a blues, you have to turn around, go take that dominant chord, raise it a half step, the 5 chord, and then back to the 5 chord, and then to 1. Add some tension. It's a very common sound to it. You're not doing something that people haven't heard all the time. And then the last is taking anytime you have a blues, you can grab that major 6, the raised 6, and bend it up a half step to the dominant 7th. That's a great sound. Freeway Jam, a lot of cool stuff. A lot of Jeff Beck loved that note too. So there you go. There are 5 very simple blues licks that we went in and figured out why they worked. Why did they sound the way they did? We used these scales and we used certain parts of the chord tones to target. So we might play something a little bit tense, but we always went in and finished that with some chord notes there. And we use a bunch of different ideas, and I hope you got something out of them. If you're not familiar with your scales, if there's something that some part of the guitar that you don't feel comfortable in, the goal is to be able to play all of your scales up and down the neck of the guitar. It's not that difficult. There's only 5 patterns for the major. There's 5 patterns for the minor. There's 5 patterns for the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, and they all share the same patterns. So if you take a look, you go over to my Play Guitar Academy on the main page, or you can click the button on this podcast, and I have my Big 4 scale worksheet, and that will give you all the patterns that you need to get you opening up the fretboard and playing all over the place. And I am so happy that you spent the time with me today. It was fun to do a lick episode, and I'm going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you thought this was a good episode, you'd like to hear more of them, please leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. That's going to help us build this and get it to more people all around the world. And make sure you become a member over at Play Guitar Academy if you would like more training and kind of something to look forward to every month. We have our masterclass at the beginning, the first Monday of every month. That gives you something cool to add to your practice throughout the month. And then we have Q&As every Wednesday. In fact, I'm going to go to one in about 10 minutes and where I answer any questions, and we can go over all the stuff that you're working on. It's a lot of fun. It's a good group of people too. Okay, everybody. That was a lot of fun. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.